What's going on, everyone? It's Ben from YGO from Zero, back with another Yugi-Kaiba format video. And in this video, I'm going to be covering probably the jankest deck that I've featured on this channel, and that is Fusion. Now, Fusion strategies are based around summoning out Fusion monsters, like Guy the Dragon Champion and Metal Dragon, which can be made using polymerization to Fusion summon using the specific material that they require. So this can be nice because it can bring out a monster that can dodge around trap hole, and there are some fusion monsters that are pretty decent in this format. Guy the Dragon Champion is a 2600 attack point monster that can get over something like a Summoned Skull, which is generally the monster with the highest attack that you'll see in most decks. And Metal Dragon, while only having 1850 attack, still beats things like Login, Battleox, and Neo, so that can be good as well. Every other fusion monster in the set has less attack than these two, so they're not really worth considering. I guess you could make like a Flame Swordsman or a Flower Wolf deck, because those monsters have 1800 attack, which, you know, can trade with a Login, but you don't really want to invest 3 cards to make a monster that trades with a Login, you know. So, generally, these fusion strategies focus on either Gaia or Metal Dragon. And the deck that I'm showing off today is focusing on Metal Dragon. Metal Dragon can be made with Steel Ogre Grotto #1 and Lesser Dragon, so we are playing both of those in the deck. The reason that we're going for Metal Dragon instead of Gaia the Dragon Champion is that Gaia the Dragon Champion requires Curse of Dragon and Gaia the Fierce Knight to make, and both of those monsters are tribute monsters, which means that you can often brick more with that deck than you can with the Metal Dragon deck. In addition, both Lesser Dragon and Steel Ogre Grotto #1 have less than 1500 attack, which means that both can be brought out off of Last Will, which makes it a bit more easier to fusion summon because, you know, if you want to fusion summon but you just have a poly and one of the two in hand, you can always Last Will out the other one if you have a way to destroy one of your monsters. So I do think that the Metal Dragon strategy is a bit less bricky, which, you know, it might not make as big of a bomb, but I think the fact that it bricks less makes it slightly better than the Guy the Dragon Champion deck. But before diving into the duels, let's do just a, you know, card by card deck breakdown here. So, of course, we are playing 3 Login, 3 Battleox, 3 Neo, the premier beaters of the format. We are also playing 3 Man-Eater Bug, you know, great removal card in the format, pretty much a 3 of in every deck. And then we get to the fusion materials. We have 2 Lesser Dragon, 2 Steel Ogre Grotto #1. We are only playing 2 Polymerization to pair with these. So you might say that we should up this to 3 of each monster and potentially 3 of the polys just to make it so that your fusion summons are online as much as possible. The issue with this is that I think that it bricks the deck too much. Sure, you could potentially make multiple Metal Dragon in a game, but honestly it's a pipe dream just to make 1. And you want to have actual good cards to keep you alive while you actually draw into the cards you need to make a Metal Dragon. So that's why I only have 2 of each, just to make the deck brick a bit less. But also we're not just playing 1 of each because then we'd never pull off the combo. So I think this is a happy medium. And anyways, I don't think that this deck is good no matter what ratios you set it as, so I'm not going to spend too much time optimizing the perfect, you know, oh, we should play 3 Lesser Dragon, 2 Steel Ogre Grotto, and 2 Polys, you know. I'm not going to spend the time tinkering with those ratios enough to actually get to that level of precision. The last monster that we're playing in the main deck is Giant Soldier of Stone, a great defender. It's also something that you can bring out off of Last Will, which is why we're only playing 1 of it. And also there just isn't really the deck space to play more than 1 of it, as you'll see that we're pretty stuffed to the gills with spells and traps that are pretty vital. Speaking of spells and traps, for the spells we have 1 Change of Heart, 1 Dark Hole, 1 Monster Reborn, 1 Pot of Greed, 1 Raigeki, all 5 limited spells, just incredibly good in pretty much every deck in the format. We have 3 Fissure to act as more removal. We have 2 Last Will to bring out our fusion materials and potentially bring out a Giant Soldier of Stone if we need that extra 200 defense. Because as a note, Steel Ogre Grotto #1 is a decent defender in its own right. It's just got a tribute summon attached to it. So if you bring it out with Last Will, it can function as a sort of Giant Soldier of Stone, forcing your opponent to use removal to get over it. We also have 2 Polys. We want to draw this card at some point in the game to pull off our combo, but we don't want to break on it too much, so 2 copies. We are also playing 2 Swords Revealing Light. This is great at stalling our opponent while we draw into the fusion materials that we need to actually pull off the fusion summon. We have 3 Reinforcements. This is great at letting your monsters win in battle, which is particularly important in protecting your Metal Dragon from your opponent's reinforcements. We have 3 Trap Hole to act as removal on our opponent's turn. We have 3 Waboku to protect both our monsters and our life points. And that's it for the main deck. For the side deck, we have the option to side into a couple different strategies. We are playing 3 Trapmaster to deal with heavy stall decks that rely on Ultimate Offering. We're playing, in addition to that, we're playing 3 Summon Skull, 2 Soul Exchange to go into a heavier Soul Control deck, which is very good against stall, but can also be good against other types of decks. We are also playing 3 Wall of Illusion, in the case that our opponent's on a heavy Soul Exchange strategy of their own. And we're also playing 2 Giant Soldier of Stone if we want to get more defensive. Wicked Worm Beast is in here, again, if we're playing a deck that, they're on a more heavy Soul Control strategy. We play this, and that can really mess them up, potentially. It's also something that you can bring out off of Last Will, but oftentimes if you're siding into a deck that can do well against a Soul Control strategy, you're siding out at least 1 Last Will, most of the time. At least that's how I play it. I think you can definitely leave in some Last Wills as well if you so choose. And lastly, we have a Just Desserts, which can be very good at dealing with stall decks or just any deck that uses Ultimate Offering heavily. If you use up your board clears and your opponent thinks that they're safe to bring out a bunch of monsters onto the field, you can punish them really hard with Just Desserts, and that may just be enough to win the game. But anyways, that is the deck. Now, I think that this deck is not good. I think it's the worst deck that I've featured on the channel because, I already aired my complaints about the equip strategy and how that was running a bit too many bricks that didn't really do enough when they were active on the field. This is basically the same sort of thing, except we're running even more bricks. So, I don't have high hopes for this deck, but let's see how it does. Okay, we've got a game against GGBO789, who has shown up on the channel before. It's always fun getting them in a duel, so let's see how this one goes. We're on Fusion, of course. Unclear what they're on yet, but we'll find out shortly. We are going to go first since we won the rock, paper, scissors. And this is a fairly decent hand. We have a poly for later. Hopefully we'll be able to draw into our other fusion materials. But even if we don't, we have a defender right away. We have Waboku, we have reinforcements. We have a board clear if they go too aggressive. And we have Monster Reborn if we really need to, bring back a defender or something like that. So we're just going to set 4, pass back to them. They're just going to set 3 and pass back to us. We draw Lodgin, and we have a couple options here. We could bring it out and try attacking in. If it's a defender, then we are set up for a board clear, which is kind of unfortunate, though. So we opt not to do it, just in case. We probably have the read that it's a bug, because they did set it and not try and attack into our set. But we're not going to risk it. We're just going to, let them pop our monster if it is a bug. And if it's a defender, we'll just leave the board as is. They are going to pop it. It is a bug. They're going to bring out Judge Man, and this is a pretty big punish for us. This is quite unfortunate. They're going to get in for 22. We could have Waboku'd that, but I think we're saving the Waboku for more important times. Maybe they'll overcommit, and then we can Waboku and then fire off a Dark Hole. This is an interesting choice here, though. We have a couple different options to deal with this Judge Man. So we can bring out Lodgin and just attack in and try and reinforcements. If they have a reinforcements of their own, though, we will lose the Lodgin, which is quite unfortunate. we could Dark Hole their board and then summon out Lodgin, but if they have Trap Hole, that can punish that play. We can summon out Lodgin, and then if they don't Trap Hole it, Raigeki their Judge Ban away. There are a couple options here. So we are going to summon out the Lodgin, and then we're going to think heavily about whether we want to actually risk the reinforcements or go for the Raigeki. So we are just going to Raigeki away their monster, figuring that, like, you know, if they do have reinforcements, we get uber punished here, and this is a pretty intimidating board as is, so we'll just try and hope that it survives. We're going to attack directly and pass back to them. Also, as a note, you know, the Judge Ban being engraved means that we can always bring it back with Monster Reborn later, which can be pretty nice. They're going to Change of Heart our Lodgin, attack in. We'll take it, and they will tribute off for a Summon Skull, which is quite unfortunate here. They're going to set one pass back to us. Well, Boku isn't the best draw, but oh well. We do use the Dark Hole here. We want to clear away that Summon Skull because we don't really have a good out to it. We could just, you know, let them summon another monster, attack him with the Summon Skull and the other monster, and we'll Boku it. But I think they're likely just going to keep the skull around the whole time, so we will just Dark Hole it and pass back to them. We could have Reborned and attacked in. The thing is, if they have like a Fisher, then we'd lose the Summon Skull, and we want to, I think, save the Reborn Summon Skull play for if they have a monster on field that we can clear with it. So they're going to bring out a Neo, attack in, and we will take it. So we're at 23, which is pretty precarious, but we do have the Wobokus, so not that bad. We're going to Reborn the Summon Skull here, and we will attack in to the Neo. They will Woboku that, but at least we managed to get them to use up a card, so not too shabby. They're going to bring out Giant Soldier. They're going to Fisher away at the Summon Skull, and they're going to attack in with everything. We're going to Woboku. And, ooh, Neo's a pretty good draw here. We'll bring out the Neo, and we will attack into the Giant Soldier. The reason for this is that if we attack into the Neo and use, like, Woboku or reinforcements, then they can just switch the Giant Soldier to defense next turn, and we'll be forced to use a reinforcement on it then. This way, we can just clear it. We could have also, you know, activated Last Will, attack Neo into Neo, use Last Will to bring out something like a Steel Ogre Grotto #1, and attacked into the Giant Soldier of Stone, clearing it. I think that's a bit too greedy, though, because we want to use the Last Will for when we have one more piece in hand, so that way we can just use Polymerization, get the Metal Dragon out onto the field. So while that play would clear their entire board, I think this is the safer play. So we'll just attack into the Giant Soldier, set one pass back to them. Also, if we did that, we'd have Steel Ogre Grotto #1 on the field, and that's not a very powerful monster. Sure, we could like use a reinforcements to buff it up over whatever our opponent brings out, but I think it's just better to have a Neo on field. They're going to set one pass back to us. We figure that the only reason they do that is if they're setting a Maneater bug. So we are just going to go for it. Change of Heart, they're set. Flip it up. It's a Maneater bug, so we will be able to pop their Neo, and then we're just going to attack in. You could have argued that we should have, you know, attacked in. We should have done like the Last Will play here just to save our Change of Heart, but I don't know. I think this is the best outcome there, and they will get back the Maneater. They have another Tribute monster to bring out. That's kind of unfortunate here, but looks like they don't. They're just going to summon out Giant Soldier, Raigeki our Neo away, and then attack in for everything. Now, this is a lot of damage here, so we could Woboku it. And it's a big consideration, but we are just going to take it all. I think the reason for this is because we're saving our Woboku to potentially use, like, more aggressively. So we'll use it for that purpose. Maneater Bug is a pretty good draw here. We'll be able to clear potentially one of their monsters. They're going to bring out Battle Ox, and they are going to try and attack in. So if we let this go through without Wobokuing, then we'll flip up the Maneater, pop the Giant Soldier, and they'll be able to get in for 450. And if they have a reinforcement set, they will win the game. So what we're going to do is we're going to Woboku this. So that way we at least keep our monster, and also we can pop their Battle Ox as opposed to one of their weaker monsters. They're going to switch everything to defense and pass back to us. We're going to bring out Lodgin, and they're going to think about that, but they're fine with it, which makes sense because we can't clear the Giant Soldier, we can only clear the Man-Eater. They're just going to set one, pass back to us. Pot of Greed's a great draw. Let's see what we get here. We draw Swords and Reinforcements. Not the worst. We'll attack in with the Lodgin, use Reinforcements to get over it. And I did make a misplay here. I'm planning on activating Swords just because I think that within 3 turns we can kill them, and there's not really a point to taking unnecessary risks. So what I should have done is I should have just switched the Man-Eater to attack. I guess this does play around if they potentially have D-Spell, because D-Spell would really mess up our day. If they have D-Spell, they use D-Spell on the Swords and then are able to attack into the Man-Eater for game. But, you know, I think I should have risked it. Instead, I'm just going to leave the Man-Eater in defense so I don't get that extra 450 chip damage, which could come up. You never know. They're going to bring up Battle Ox. We are okay with that. That's 1 on Swords. We draw a Battle Ox of our own. And now we could actually potentially go for lethal here. So there is a world. We summon out the Battle Ox. We activate Last Will in the main phase 1. We switch the Man-Eater to attack. We crash the Battle Ox into their Battle Ox. Bring out a Steel Ogre Grotto number 1 with our Last Will. And 1400 plus 450 plus 1800 is exactly 3650. So that will be exact lethal. However, you know, they've only used up 1 Woboku. And they could have reinforcements. I mean, we've got a reinforcements to keep the crash going. But, like, I think it's best just to play it safe. Even though we do have the potential lethal line here. Although we do highly consider it because it would be incredibly funny if we actually did that. We are just going to eventually make the safe play. We are going to bring out the Battle Ox, just potentially get in more damage. And, you know, they've used up Dark Hole. They haven't used up, or no, they've used up Raigeki. They haven't used up Dark Hole. So there's a bit of a risk, but it's not the worst risk in the world. We're going to attack into the Battle Ox. They are going to Woboku that, so I'm very glad we didn't do the Last Will play because we would have gotten majorly punished here. They're going to set 1, pass back to us. We draw Neo, which means that if they do Dark Hole our board, you know, we can just bring out Neo afterwards. So we're feeling pretty good about that. We are just going to attack into the Battle Ox again. They will take it this time. We'll attack in with our other Battle Ox. And we will just attack in with the Man-Eater. I think we could have just switched the Man-Eater to defense, but it's very likely they don't have a D-Spell, or else they would have used D-Spell last turn, attacked into the Man-Eater with their Battle Ox. So I feel safe just leaving it up. They draw a card, and they don't have any way to deal with our board, so that will be the end of Game 1. So, Game 1 went a lot better than I expected, but I'm not sure that's due to the fusion side of things. I think we just drew into the non-fusion part of the deck, and we were just able to win off of that. So I think Game 1, you know, isn't really a good showing of the actual reality of the deck. We're going to keep it on the fusion strategy here. We could side out into like an anti-soul control strategy, but we figure they haven't seen that we're on fusion, although they could maybe guess it from the fact that we have a fusion deck, which is why in general most people, you know, put an extra deck, even if they're not actually playing a fusion strategy, just to, you know, mind game their opponent a bit. But, you know, I generally haven't done that because I want to just focus on the decks themselves, but you should probably add fusion decks to every deck that you make. But, you know, they might know we're on fusion. We don't care. We're going to keep it on fusion and see what happens. Hopefully we can summon out a Metal Dragon here. We're going to be going second because they lost the first game. And this is not the worst hand. Lesser Dragon is one piece of our fusion materials, so that's pretty nice. We'd also have beaters to bring out, so we will just bring out Battle Ox, try and attack in. It's an Optimator, unfortunate, but we will just set 3 and pass. We don't have any traps to actually do anything here, but at least we can bluff. They're going to bring out Lodgin, attack in 2 Battle Ox. We'll take 100. Battle Ox will die. They'll set 1 pass back to us. And this is great Dark Hole terror. This is a great Dark Hole opportunity. Like, we're just going to fire the Dark Hole, bring out Lodgin, and then just try and get in for 18. So we will succeed in that. We'll set 1, pass back to them. They'll set 2, pass back to us. And we have a Neo. So we're going to bring out Neo. And we are going to attack in. You know, if it's a defender, we've set ourselves up for a board clear. But if it's a Man-Eater, this can work out very well. It is a Man-Eater, so we are rewarded for our play. We'll attack in with the Neo. You know, pass back to them. They'll bring out Lodgin. We're just going to trap hold the Lodgin. Keep up the pressure. And they don't have a follow-up for that. So we are just going to attack in with the Neo. And we're just going to set 1 and pass. I think we could have potentially activated the swords here because we're in a very, very good spot. But frankly, we don't really need it. You know, if they bring out a Lodgin, we can't clear that anyways. There's no point in just stalling the inevitable. So we'll save the swords. They're just going to set 2 and pass back to us. We draw the other fusion material. All we need is a polymerization, and we're set. So we're feeling pretty good about that. We're just going to attack into the set with the Neo. You know, we take 300 there. Nothing we can do about that. They're going to bring out Lodgin. Again, nothing we can do about this. They're going to Fisher away our Neo, and they're going to switch everything to attack, and we don't have a Woboku, so we're going to take a ton of damage here. We take 31. They pass back to us. We draw another trap hole, but that's a bit too late. So, unfortunately, we can't do anything about that. We are just going to activate the swords, set the trap hole, pass back to them. And they're going to switch Giant Soldier to defense, pass back to us. We draw another Steel Ogre Grotto. Not the best draw. We're not really playing any soul exchanges because I think that, you know, soul exchanges with only 2 tribute monsters is a bit bricky. And we are just playing the Change of Heart that can combo off with it if we need to. But, yeah, this is, you know, not the best hand. But we do have swords up, so this isn't the worst either. Lodgin's okay. We're going to bring out the Lodgin, and we are just going to pass because we don't really have any other things to do. So they're going to pass back to us. Swords will expire. We draw a Last Will. So we can, you know, do something interesting here. We could attack our Lodgin to their Lodgin, then Last Will in main phase 2 to bring out like a defender. Not sure if that's the best play, but it's an option. We are just going to attack into their Lodgin. You know, the Woboku will happen. We are just going to use Last Will here and bring out Giant Soldier. Normally we'd bring out like a Steel Ogre Grotto probably because Steel Ogre Grotto bricks you a bit more than Giant Soldier does if you draw it, but we have both Steel Ogre Grottos, so we'll bring out the other defender. And then we'll activate swords for good measure. I think this is a bit unnecessary, but if they do have a Fisher, we just basically lose. So I think this is a bit of an unnecessary play in general. I think maybe we should have just activated swords from the get-go, but oh well, nothing we can do now. Change of Heart's a very nice draw. We can combo with the Steel Ogre Grotto to get rid of one of their monsters, which is pretty nice. And we think about it a bit because if we do that, then we'll have a board that can really get punished by a board clear. But we do have 2 trap holes. So we can potentially deal with whatever other threats they bring out. So we will just do that. We're going to take the Giant Soldier here and set the Grotto. The reason for this is that we figure we have more outs to the Lodgin than actually just to a defender. Because reinforcements... I don't know why we... I guess... Okay, so here's the thing. If we clear the Giant Soldier, then if we do manage to bring out Metal Dragon, we can potentially clear over their Lodgin if they don't have any like reinforcements or anything. If we do draw Polymerization and they're left with Giant Soldier on the field, we can't clear it with Metal Dragon. So I guess that's what we're going for. Maybe I would have taken the Lodgin since we are a bit on the back foot here. And if they have board clears, we're in a pretty tough spot. So we'd rather take 1,300 than 1,800, but we do this. They will soul exchange away the Ogre Grotto. We'll just trap hole it because we don't have any other way to remove that. And we draw a Fisher. So we're feeling pretty good about that. We'll Fisher away their monster. switch Giant Soldier to attack in for 13. We could have also summoned out the Lesser Dragon here to threaten lethal, because they might think we have a reinforcements, so they might Wuboku prematurely. But we figure we don't want to play into a board clear, and if we do draw Polymerization and they have managed to clear Lesser Dragon on their turn, then we'll feel really bad about that. So they are just going to Wuboku anyways in case we have triple reinforcements, because that will also kill them. So I think that is probably for the best, because we haven't been using any of these cards as long as we've had them, and the only thing that we haven't really had a good option to use is like reinforcements. So I think that's not a bad read. I think it's the safe play to make. They're going to bring out Battle Ox. We will trap hole that. And we're just going to try and threaten lethal here. We're going to bring out Battle Ox, attack directly. They've got another Wuboku, so we switch the Giant Soldier defense, and they will just Dark Hole our board, which is kind of unfortunate, but it looks like they don't really have any good follow-up, so they're just going to set a bunch and pass. We will think for a bit, because I think we're debating whether we bring back the Judge Man with a Reborn to potentially clear their set. They have used up all three Wuboku, so they won't really have a good way to deal with that. But I think we're just going to bide our time. And they're going to bring out a Battle Ox and attack in for 17. We'll take it. We didn't really want to Wuboku that. Didn't think it was worth it. And Raigeki is a great draw here. We can potentially just win the game this turn. We're going to bring out Lesser Dragon, and they don't trap hole that, so we are just going to go for game. We'll Raigeki their board, Reborn a Judge Man, and that should be it. And yep, that is it. They didn't have any trap holes to use anyways, so this is why I think that playing the Metal Dragon deck is slightly better than playing the sort of the Dragon Champion deck, because you can just use Lesser Dragon as a guy to beat in with. So it doesn't come up often, I will say, but when it does come up, it is very nice to have it. I do think that sort of a Gaia Dragon deck could potentially play like Soul Exchanges to make it sort of like a Soul Control deck using Curse of Dragon instead of Summon Skulls and the like. But I think that just adds more bricks to an already bricky deck. So I don't actually think it's worth it. You generally want to keep like your fusion materials in hand until you actually need to polymerization with them, because otherwise you're just making late game polymerization draws a bit dead if all your fusion materials are in grave. So I do just like the Metal Dragon deck a bit better, because I think it's easier to just keep monsters in hand and potentially just bring them out to win the game if you have to. But we didn't get to bring out Metal Dragon. It's kind of sad. You know, it was just in our fusion deck doing nothing. So we played these games, and you know, we immediately went into a rematch because I didn't get to fusion summon. I'm sure that they wanted another chance against this deck, because it's not a very good deck, so I think they probably think, okay, we can take them in a game too. So we did just do a rematch here. So they know what we're on. We have an idea of what they're on, but I don't think it really matters that much. I don't think there are many things you can do to adjust your playstyle to a fusion deck, because fusion decks are kind of bad. This is not the best hand, I'm going to be honest. 2 Lesser Dragon isn't quite what you want to see. But I mean, it's not terrible. Besides the 2 Lesser Dragon, we actually have some good stuff. So we're just going to bring out a Battle Ox and pass back to them. They're going to Soul Exchange right away into a Judge Man. So kind of rough, but we do have the Fisher to deal with that next turn. So we're just going to use that next turn. Neo the Magic Swordsman is a pretty good draw. We'll summon that out, Fisher away their Judge Man, attack in for 17, and then pass back to them. They're going to bring out Login. We're just going to trap hole it, and we're just going to attack in for another 17. We'll set the reinforcements, pass back to them. They're going to bring out another Login. That's fine by us. And they're going to attack into the Neo. We will reinforcements. They'll reinforcements. Unfortunate, but not unexpected. At least this way Giant Soldier Stone will be able to block an attack. And we draw the other fusion material. Okay, all we need to draw is a polymerization, and we're set. They're going to think for a bit and just attack into our set. They'll take 200 and pass back to us. We draw Login, so we could just summon our Login, crash into theirs. And I think we're highly considering it. Looks like we're thinking for quite a bit here. We are just going to summon out Login and try and attack in. I don't hate this play because we're basically trying to clear away their aggressive threats to give us time to draw into a polymerization to bring out Metal Dragon. So I think that, you know, we do lose a Login, which is unfortunate, but if they have like a Fissure or something, we could get majorly punished by their Login. So they're just going to set one pass back to us. And here, I think I do make a misplay. It's likely that's a Maneater bug, and that's how they're going to clear our monster. So what I could do is I could switch the Giant Soldier to attack, activate Last Will, attack into their Maneater bug, use Last Will to bring out a Grotto in defense mode, and basically still have a defender up while also clearing away their monster. I decide not to do that. I just set one and pass, and I get majorly punished for it here. They're going to flip up the Maneater bug, clear our defender, and then tribute out a Summon Skull. So they'll be able to get in for 25, which is very unfortunate, but it is what it is. Raigeki is not a bad draw. It's kind of rough, though, because we don't really have a follow-up to it. But I think we have to do it. We're going to bring out Lesser Dragon, hoping that they'll maybe trap hole it. They won't take the bait. But we'll be able to Raigeki their board, attack in for 12. And hopefully they won't be able to bring out a monster to contest this. Unfortunately, they have a Login, so they will be able to clear the Lesser Dragon. We'll take 6. They'll set one, pass back to us. And Battleox doesn't quite do it. We are going to bring out the Battleox. We are going to attack in to the Login. They're going to Waboku, which is perfect because we don't actually have a reinforcements. We have a Last Will. We'll use Last Will, bring out the Steel Ogre Grotto #1, and they will tribute off their Login for a Summon Skull. So they will be able to clear the Steel Ogre Grotto. The nice thing is we've cleared up our deck a bit, so maybe we can draw the polymerization. The unfortunate thing is that won't actually help on this board because Metal Dragon cannot clear Summon Skull. So, quite unfortunate. Reinforcements will not help us here. We're just going to set the reinforcements, pass back to them. They have not used a Monster Reborn, so they could do that just to win. But we want to save these two in hand just in case we draw the Metal Dragon. If we're going to lose game 1, can we at least make Metal Dragon? They're going to attack in for 25. And they will set one pass back to us. Waboku is a pretty great draw. It will buy us another turn. They're going to attack in. Waboku. Pass back to us. Reborn is also not a bad draw. We can Reborn back their Summon Skull. And we can try and attack in. And that will work. So we will be able to clear their Summon Skull, use reinforcements to buff up our own. They have Dark Hole, though. They have Neo. And if that's reinforced, we do lose the game. Looks like it isn't, though. So we survive one more turn. Can we draw the polymerization? Fissure, okay. I guess Fissure is a way to deal with that. We'll set the Lesser Dragon because we're running very low on life points. So if they bring out any monster, they can basically kill us. However, they reveal that they've got Raigeki and Giant Soldier. So that will be the end of the game anyways. So, really unfortunate. We didn't actually draw a polymerization to turn our Metal Dragon strategy on. In the 3 games I've shown so far, we've either drawn polymerization or we've drawn some of the fusion materials, but never all 3 at once. It just wasn't meshing together. So I decided in game 2 here, since they were able to pretty effectively deal with our defenders and things like that, and we couldn't buy enough time to actually bring together the fusion strategy, I decided to side into a bit of an anti-soul strategy. with playing like Wicked Worm Beast, Wall of Illusion, and the like, as well as siding into a bit more soul control options in the forms of like Summon Skulls and Soul Exchanges. So let's see how that goes. I know this isn't really a battle between like a fusion deck and a regular deck anymore, but I think that this was the right play given how brutally we were sort of defeated in game one of this match. We really need to be able to stall our opponent for like a little bit to draw into our combo pieces, but we just couldn't do it. They're going to bring out Neo, and we don't have a trap hole or anything, so we can't do anything about that. They are just going to Fisher away our Lodgin. Kind of unfortunate, but at least we have another Lodgin in hand. They're going to set 2, pass back to us. We're just going to set 1, pass back to them. You might argue that we should have saved the Man-Eater bug for a later point, but the reason we did this is that if we bring out like a monster to attack, they have Trap Hole, then they just can keep the aggressive pressure going. So I think it's better just to bring out Man-Eater bug, pop their Neo, and it looks like they don't have another monster, so we're feeling very good about that. We have to think here for a bit, because we could just bring out the Wicked Worm Beast to play around if they have like a Soul Exchange sort of thing. We could bring out a 1700 beater just to protect our own life points if they do bring out another monster. We are going to do that play. We figure if they had like a Soul Exchange or something, they might have used it on the Man-Eater bug. If they had a change of heart, they probably definitely would have used it on the Man-Eater bug. So we're not too worried about this. It would be unfortunate if they do it, but not the worst thing in the world. So they're going to bring out Lodgin. They're going to attack in to Neo. We do have reinforcements, and it looks like they do not. So we will be able to clear their Lodgin. And we have a Summon Skull to go with the Soul Exchange if we need it, which feels very good. We can just summon out Wicked Worm Beast here, which is great. This is always a nice thing about Wicked Worm Beast. If you have a monster on board already, you can just keep bringing out Wicked Worm Beast to attack in without fearing like major board removal like Raigeki or Darkhold. So that's very good. We are able to sink it all in and pass back to them. Wicked Worm Beast returns to our hand. They'll set 1, activate swords, pass back to us. We figure that's probably a Man-Eater bug. So we're just going to set the Wicked Worm Beast as a bluff, hoping that they pop it with the Man-Eater bug. Maybe we should set the Battle Ox instead. Just because the Man-Eater bug, or not the Man, just because the Wicked Worm Beast is so good against a soul control sort of strategy. But we're just going to go with this. It's not the worst if the Wicked Worm Beast dies. And they do pop that instead of our Neo, so we're feeling pretty good about that. Swords is a great draw as well. We'll set that, pass back to them. They're going to switch the Man-Eater to defense. The last turn on Swords, we could Soul Exchange to bring out a Summon Skull, just because we already don't have our battle phase. But they haven't used up any mass board clears, and they've got 4 back rows, so I think that's a bit too risky. I don't think we need to do that. We're just going to set a Battle Ox as a bluff, hoping that they'll use like a Raigeki or Darkhold here. And we'll set 1 and pass. And they do use the Raigeki, so that will eat through 2 of our 1700 beaters. We are just going to summon out Lodgin. That will get Trap Hold, unfortunately. And we will think here. We're debating about bringing out a monster off of the Reborn. We can bring back like a Lodgin to keep the pressure going. Or we could bring back a Wicked Worm Beast, which is great because it bounces back to our hand at the end of the turn. Clears the Man-Eater. So it's not a bad option. We will Reborn the Wicked Worm Beast here, which I think is actually the correct play. Even though it leaves our board empty, we've got a Soul Exchange plus Summon Skull to deal with if they set a monster. We've got a Fisher to deal with if they summon a monster. We've got Swords for a later turn if they manage to, make a huge aggressive push here. So we're feeling very good about this. They're going to Reborn back their Lodgin, and they will just attack in with the Lodgin. We'll take 18. They'll pass back to us. We draw Neo, which is pretty nice. We're going to bring out Wicked Worm Beast and just Fisher away their Lodgin. We're going to attack in for 14. We figure they probably can't kill us. So we're just going to pass. I think we could have activated Swords just to be safe here. But I think Yeah, I think we should just activate his swords here because we're in a very good position. We're very likely to win in the next couple turns, so I think we could have just played it safe. They're just going to set one, though, pass back to us. And here we're going to activate swords because if it is like a defender or something, we could bring out like a Neo, attack in with reinforcements to clear it. If it's Man-Eater Bug, it clears itself, and we can just bring out Wicked Worm Beast, potentially attack in for game. And as I said, I think we are going to win in the next couple turns, so I don't think there's a risk to firing the swords now. It is a Man-Eater, so we will be able to bring out Wicked Worm Beast and get in for game. So, game 2, I think, went pretty well. We had Summon Skull and Soul Exchange. We had that combo ready to go if we ever needed it, but we didn't need it. Wicked Worm Beast is a crazy good card when you actually manage to use it well. And so that was a pretty good game 2. And the best part about that game 2 is they don't know we're on Soul Exchange, you know. All they saw from the side is like Wicked Worm Beast. They didn't see any Soul Exchange. They didn't see any Summon Skulls. So we're going to keep it on the heavy Soul Exchange strategy because we figure they're less likely to side into something that can deal with that. So I know this is kind of disappointing. I know that y'all probably wanted to see me summon Metal Dragon. I've never been able to successfully fusion summon in this format, and I think it's just it's too bricky. I think I'd have to play a bunch of duels to actually manage to fusion summon once, and I feel like if I did, it wouldn't actually be that good. So I think that like these games are showing off the merits of the deck, not related to the fusion side of it, which is kind of unfortunate. But I do think it showed a little bit about how fusion decks can brick. Like we had a bunch of fusion materials in hand, and that would normally be good if we're playing a deck that's like a 2-card combo. But with a 3-card combo like this, it's just a bit too much to ask in most situations. Even if you draw 2 pieces, that third piece is going to be pretty far away most of the time. So I think this kind of has shown some of the weaknesses of the fusion strategy. But anyways, we're on Soul Exchange after the side, so we activated Pot of Greed, brought out a Battle Ox, tried to attack in. We've got a Fisher if it's a defender. We've got just Battle Ox if it's a Man-Eater, and it was Man-Eater, so this way we have a Lodge in for later. They're going to set another pass back to us. We could just Soul Exchange here. We do have Soul Exchange plus Summon Skull. That is a bit weak to things like Fisher, but we do have a Woboku and a Trap Hole to protect our Summon Skull if we want to set it. However, we're just going to bring out a Lodge in, attack in, hoping that it's a defender so we can clear it with like... Oh, I guess we don't have a reinforcements, but hoping that we can clear it. So, kind of unfortunate, but nothing much we can do there. They're going to set another. They've got set monsters up the wazoo. We're just going to Soul Exchange and Tribute set a Summon Skull. We're playing around Fisher here. If they bring out a monster to attack into it, we can either Trap Hole or we can just use up a Woboku. So that way we play around Trap Hole a bit, but they're just going to bring out a monster, and we are debating Trap Holing this. It could play into Trap Hole of their own if they have one, but we're playing into Fisher otherwise, so now we really have to decide at this moment, do we want to play into Fisher or do we want to play into Trap Hole? And which of our trap cards is actually more valuable to us? We are going to decide to let this go through and let them attack in. We're going to Woboku this to hopefully preserve our Summon Skull. It is revealed they have a Fisher though, so kind of unfortunate. But we've got Fisher in hand, so I think that's why we saved the Trap Hole, because we can't always use a Fisher now to clear the Battle Ox. So I think that's why we did it. We will save the removal for more monsters. We don't really need it now. We're not activating swords here because we don't know what they've got in hand. We figure they don't have much offensive threats because they haven't been summoning that. They've just been setting monsters from the beginning of the game. So we don't want to activate swords now. If they bring in another monster, then maybe we'll activate swords, but looks like it paid off for us. We're just going to keep the Man-Eater in hand because we don't want them to like Soul Exchange it away. So I think this is a bit better. They're going to Pot of Greed. Summon out Neo. We don't need to Trap Hole here because it's not too much damage, and we do have removal options in hand. Reinforcements isn't the best draw, but it is what we got. We're just going to set Maneater, set a Reinforcement, pass back to them. We could get majorly punished here if they do have Change of Heart, but looks like they don't. So we will just be able to pop the Neo. And we draw a monster of our own now, so we're feeling very good about that. Summon out the monster, they will trap hole it, pass back to them. They're going to bring out a Giant Soldier. We're perfectly fine with that. You know, most things in our deck can clear that. They're going to set one, pass back to us. Trap hole. Would have been nice to see a turn earlier. We are just going to Fisher away their Giant Soldier, set another trap hole. We figure this is probably fine. We don't need to activate swords yet, because if they bring out another monster with a normal summon, we can just trap hole it. And they can't kill us through one Monster Reborn, so... Neo is a pretty good draw here. We're going to activate Neo. They're okay with it. We will attack in for 17. They'll take 17. We'll pass back to them. And they will draw and just pass back to us. So we're feeling very good about this. We'll just attack in again with the Neo. They'll drop down another 17. We'll pass back to them. They're going to bring out a Neo. We're just going to trap hole. We've got another trap hole right here. So... you know, we don't really feel the need to let them keep that Neo around. Waboku's a great draw. You know, we've lost our previous Waboku, so we could potentially get use out of this one. They're down to 2,900, which means that we're in a very good spot now. We're just going to attack in. We could have summoned out Wall of Illusion to try and bait out, like, a Waboku, but we haven't used any reinforcements, and they might be worried that we have 3 reinforcements in our back row. So... they will Waboku that anyways, which I think is a smart play on their part. Just might as well play it safe. And they are going to finally set a monster, pass back to us, and we draw a Lodgin. So we have to think here for a second. We look in their graveyard, see that they've used up 2 Maneater bugs, so it might not be a Maneater bug. But in either case, you know, we've got reinforcements on the field, so we can attack them with one monster, clear it, potentially attack them with another. If it is Maneater bug, then they can pop the other one, but honestly, that's not the worst trade-off. So we're going to bring out Lodgin. Unfortunately, they will trap hole. We will attack in, and it is Wall of Illusion. We are just going to reinforcements that to get over it. And we'll have to pass back to them. We don't have another normal summon. They're going to set one, pass back to us. We're going to bring out Neo, and that's fine by them, so we'll just keep attacking in. They know we can't kill them here, because we've used up reinforcements already, so they won't fire a Waboku if they have one. They are going to Soul Exchange, and they're going to Tribute set a monster. I think this is very smart. We've only used up 1 trap hole, but we have used up 2 Fisher, so we're more likely to have a trap hole than a Fisher, so I think this makes sense. We're going to bring out a Wall of Illusion. We're just going to Raigeki their board away, because... we don't actually have a reinforcement, so this will threaten lethal. And if it does go through, they're down to 200 life points, which is not very much. We're just going to attack in, and they will Waboku that. I'll pass back to us. They'll Soul Exchange again, setting another monster, passing back to us. And we're just going to set a Maneater. They haven't used up Change of Heart, so it would be pretty bad if they Change of Hearted our Maneater. But I think this is for the best. We also do have a trap hole left. We actually have 2 trap holes left. So if they bring out another monster, then we can trap hole it as well. Yeah, I think that's fine. They're going to flip up Summon Skull. We're just going to trap hole it. They bring out Battle Ox. We're fine with that. They're going to Raigeki away our Maneater, which is why we trap hold the Summon Skull, even though we could have potentially cleared it with the Maneater, just in case they have like a Raigeki or a Change of Heart. They're going to attack in with the Battle Ox. We'll take the 17, pass back to them. Dark Hole isn't the worst draw, but it's also not that useful in this situation. So now we'll finally fire the swords. They're going to set one, pass back to us, and now we have a very good board to Dark Hole. We are just going to Dark Hole this board, summon out Battle Ox, and they reveal that they're just left with 3 reinforcements. So that will be the end of the game. And they could have actually had a Waboku, but I don't think it would have been that bad if they had a Waboku. We were in a pretty good spot here. But that will be the end of the game. So we managed to win 2 matches in a row with Fusion, going up against a Soul Exchange deck, which is, you know, the type of deck that's arguably the best in the format. So clearly this means that Fusion is the best strategy in the format, right? Everyone should play Metal Dragon Turbo. It's just too good. Even if you don't bring out Metal Dragon, you win. It's just too good. What can I say? Joking aside, I think that, while we did win these two games, I think that we mainly won match 2 because we sided into a more typical Soul Exchange strategy, and we were able to, make that strategy work for us. I think that we won match 1, not based on the strength of actual fusion summoning, because, again, we didn't actually manage to fusion summon, but just based on, being able to play aggressively in general. And, I think we probably got a bit lucky there as well. So, like most decks in Yugi-Kaiba, I think that pretty much any deck can take a game most of the time, because most decks play the same basic core of cards. And there's very limited options in terms of being able to react to what your opponent does, which can lead to situations where you just can't stop your opponent from managing to just kill you over a couple turns, because you just don't draw the right pieces that you need. So I think that this is a prime example of that, where any deck can win if luck is on its side and you play decently well. But not every deck can pull off its main strategy every game, and we certainly did not. And I think that is very damning of the deck, that we never actually managed to bring out Metal Dragon when the whole purpose of the deck is to bring out Metal Dragon. And in the situations where we could have drawn into the Metal Dragon strategy, I don't actually think it would have been very good. It couldn't have helped us against the Summon Skull in game 1 of this match. I think Metal Dragon's better to play because, like in game 2 of the previous match, you can bring out the fusion materials to attack in a pinch, and you can also bring out the fusion materials with Last Will. But I just think that the deck is bad. So I'm not planning on doing another video with this deck. I guess if y'all want me to make another video with this deck, let me know in the comments. If y'all want to see me summoning out Metal Dragon or Gaia the Dragon Champion, if you want me to try making that, then I can do it. But as of now, my plans are, this is the last fusion video that I'm making. But I hope you enjoyed the video. The next deck I'm playing should be a bit less janky, so we'll be able to see if we can actually pull off what that deck is trying to do. But until then, I've been Ben from YGO from Zero, and I'm signing off.